Hello, everyone. I'm Riyadh, and I'm the first big city.
I'm Ontario, and I'm the second big city.
And together, this is.
Big city, small talk. Hi, everyone. Before we begin today's episode, I would like to address something really quick. Today's episode is going to revolve around mental health, and there might be some possible triggers for anyone listening. If you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health, we both encourage you to reach out and find help. Thank you and enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Hello.
How are we doing this year, Wadi?
I'm good. School just started. Been doing with that. And just taking time off from this from school, and utilizing this long weekend.
Yeah, this Labor Day weekend I'm really excited for.
Yeah.
I had to go to work today, so I didn't get to sleep in, but tomorrow I will be sleeping in.
Yeah, you always gotta make sure you have time to recharge for yourself,
Rest is very important these days.
Yeah, school can be a lot, and I think that one of the biggest challenges as a student is balancing that social and work life, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I think that ties in today's theme to students and mental health in general. So let's start there.
Yeah. Just to start, I want to throw out this statistic that is terrible, but it puts into perspective how big of an issue this really is. 1 in 5 teenagers are diagnosed with a mental health disorder, such as depression or anxiety. And that really reflects how important this problem is.
Absolutely. It really shows just how big of a mental health crisis we have in this country, especially among students. It's really worrying.
Truly, yeah. So I think balancing work and social life, or school and social life, is a big problem that a lot of teens face, and a big stressor and reason for the mental health. So I think we should start there.
Yeah, the how do you balance a social life and a school life, and for some students a work life? How do you keep in balance all these elements that are in your life without getting overwhelmed or burnt out? What do you think about that, Wadi? What's your take?
Well, for me, this is a path not a lot of people go down, but I have 100% prioritized my work and school life, and then kind of thrown out my social life.
Right.
Which is not the path for everyone.
Absolutely.
But it is the path I chose, and I have chosen. And I've been just on the grind,
You've been on the grind.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a job?
I'm not employed, but I do work for people. I work for a few companies, editing like TikToks and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So just,
kind of freelance
something.
work.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just, summer just ended and school's back, but I've been ready for school since the start of summer. My whole entire summer has just been work.
Yeah.
So
this summer for me, I experienced really wanting to go back to school the entire summer. I am anti-summer because school gives my life structure. And so the entire summer I was like, I need something to do. I wish I was in school.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. Maybe I did have that too subconsciously and I didn't realize it. But I just filled that hole and was like, no school. Okay, SAT prep. Okay, I'm going to Spain to study Spanish. Okay, I'm gonna go here to study neuroscience or whatever,
Yeah.
So I just did everything I could to fill that void.
I definitely, for me, filling that void was getting a job. I work at Starbucks. I'm a barista.
Oh, nice.
So working has been my everything, and I love it. I love my job so much.
That's nice. That's, if I'm honest, that's not that common.
I know.
Especially for Starbucks. I've seen videos
I
of.
hear bad things about them.
Yeah, I saw a video of this like Gen Z kid, and he was crying because like the Starbucks was so busy, and like there were so many people, and he was just so overwhelmed. It's
Oh,
surprising to hear that you enjoy it.
we definitely have our moments. Excuse me. But honestly, I just love the people I work with so much. I've made so many great friends, and my boss is fantastic. Like,
Oh,
shout out
very
to
lucky.
Amber. Love you.
Yep,
Like,
yep.
she's the best. So it's been really great so far. And Starbucks in particular has some really great mental health related things. You know the app Headspace?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
It's kind of like a meditation app.
Hmm.
And
Not
so,
sponsored, by the way.
not sponsored, but Starbucks is. So I get a free Headspace membership.
Oh, nice. That's
And I'm
very good.
also allowed to take days off for mental health reasons.
Hmm. That's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these big corporations, for the students that do have work and balance work and school, um, some of these big corporations are just like, do not care.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Starbucks is one of the few that do have like the funds and do care about the student workers. But yeah, it is a big problem to study or to balance these hours between studying and working.
Yeah. And speaking of balance, we have both just started the International Baccalaureate Program, aka IB.
Yeah, yeah.
How's that
Whenever
going
I'd
for you?
well, before I even got into IB or started it, um, I would tell my friends, "Oh yeah, I'm doing IB stuff, so it's different for me," and they would be like, "What? Yo, are you okay? Do you need help? Like, man, it's gonna be so hard." So we, of course, haven't fully delved into it yet. We just are like what 3, 4 weeks into school, 2 weeks I think
2 weeks
actually.
into school, yeah.
Um, but yeah, we haven't gotten into the trenches yet.
I feel like the exact opposite of you. I feel like I'm already fully in there.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking with one of our peers, and he was saying that he doesn't like the beginning of school because he feels like everything is just thrown at him. He was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we gotta set up so much stuff, and we gotta do this, do that, do that." Right now, it's very interesting to see because I'm the exact opposite, where it's just like, "Oh, these are little things for me, here and there," but for someone else, it can be like really substantial and
Hmm.
really a challenge.
And IB just has so much stuff. Like there's
Mhm.
just so much to do. It feels so overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah, I think IB students are easily overwhelmed. I think there's not a single person who isn't overwhelmed by IB. If you aren't, you're lying. There's a lot, to be frank. Um, yeah, you
Yeah.
just have everything. And IB expects you to be ready for everything. And if you're not, you don't get the diploma. And
Exactly.
that's the reason you're taking IB, for that diploma, for those opportunities that the diploma gives you.
It's like you have to focus on IB as well as like college and a job and like maintaining a social life. And it's like balance doesn't exist. Like you can pretend it does, but you will get overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's kind of inevitable, right?
Right.
Getting overwhelmed, but I think our school has some good measures in place to
Mm-hmm.
help us. Our school this year just added a time at the end of school where you can get tutoring for free from all the different teachers. So that is great for the students who are struggling because they don't understand the concepts and stuff like that, and the
Right.
material of the classes.
It's also, we have really great teachers who have
Yeah,
made
yeah.
sure that they kind of put us first in a way.
Yeah, I think we are very lucky to be at a small school where the teachers know us. I'm told by my friends, like, they don't know their teachers. Like, I tell them, oh yeah, I'm playing Minecraft with the dean of my school, and they're like, what? Like, they think their mind goes to like some criminal activity on their side, but no, it's completely fine.
Perfectly normal for us.
Yeah, for a small school, and for like a public school, you're just a number, right? Your student
right.
number, like 1,277. Like, you have to take that extra step forward to know your peers, to know your teachers, and to know like all the faculty. But I think with the advantage of having that's one of the advantage of having a small school, is where you can just kind of live your life within the school and everyone will know you. You won't be
Right.
just an outsider. You have that instant acceptance almost.
Right. And I think that's something that you really don't get anywhere else, is that instant acceptance.
Yeah, truly, yeah.
So I want to segue here into talking about how not only school affects our mental health, but how social media can also affect our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So very recently, I deleted TikTok. Completely deleted it. I no longer use it.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And it's been one of the greatest things I've ever done for my mental health. It has been
That's interesting.
fantastic for me.
Is there any specific pointers as to why you've thought this or felt this?
So I was what's known as a doom scroller.
So, just based off of what you said, does that mean like when you feel like, I guess, just any sort of bad, you just start scrolling?
No, it's kind of like all of the videos on my For You page would basically tell me that the end of the world is coming.
Oh, you were referring to the content. Okay.
Right.
That's interesting. So that gave you, I forgot what it was called. Excuse me. I think it was a type of anxiety that forms, especially in teenagers, about the end of the world. Yeah. Here, I can look it up, but yeah.
Yeah, look it up.
That's
real quickly.
interesting.
I
So,
remember. Oh, go ahead.
is there like, did you start liking those TikToks? How do you think your feed got like that?
I don't know. It used to be Taylor Swift videos, and then it transferred to videos that are like, Russia's gonna nuke the United States and we're all gonna die. Or climate change is going to kill us. And it was all of this stuff that was like, they were like, it's happening now. We're all gonna die tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I guess this is what I'm being told. And like, it freaked me out. It gave me some really bad anxiety.
Yeah. What I'm referring to is just simply called climate anxiety. I learned this over the summer. It's a type of anxiety that forms mainly in teenagers, about whether it be the end of the world or climate change, or this sense of dread where you feel powerless against the whole world collapsing. And I think, yeah, TikTok, and any social media that has an aggressive algorithm does they do like make the problem worse.
Absolutely.
Of climate anxiety within teenagers. Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you ever experienced anything like that, Wadi?
No, if I'm honest. I don't put too much thought into it. I used to be a chronic like person who would just always think about the past and just always regret the past. And there are things to regret in my past. That's true for everyone, right? But you just gotta come to the realization that it's the past, right?
Right.
And that now is now. And think
Yeah.
about the now and what can be.
Mm-hmm. So, we know that social media can affect people's mental health in some really bad ways. We're kind of taught that from an early age. But I think it's also important to note that some social media can be extraordinarily helpful to people's mental health.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about TikTok on this podcast. We made a whole episode about it. But TikTok is really good. I mean, for socializing, it's like how you socialize when you're not around your friends. It used to be like, I don't know, Facebook a really long time ago. Um, and then it kind of went from Instagram to Snapchat to random social medias like Be Real, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I think TikTok is the definitive place to socialize online.
Yeah. Why do you think it's like a good place to be?
So I think it's a good place to be. I mean, if you have the correct algorithm, like if you have a good algorithm, not like one that shows you the end of the world, you know. um, I think that teenagers love like self-expression and have a strong desire to express themselves, right? And so TikTok is just an extension of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you send just a TikTok to your friend, right? They even have a whole system within the app. You don't even have to go to another app to share it. You just share it within TikTok. And yeah, you just express yourself through that, whether it be like, I don't know, your favorite Taylor Swift era or like a clip or something, or an edit,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's another way to express yourself to the people you want to express to, or you can go the other route and also express yourself to everyone and post content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think other forms of social media like Instagram have also made it really easy to reach out to people. Like before, it was only like chatting services, but now we have like DMs and Twitter.
Mm.
Like there's so many different ways you can connect with people nowadays. It makes kind of shutting and isolating yourself a lot more difficult.
Yeah, for sure. I think going back to what we were talking about earlier, small school, right? If you are in a scenario where you're in a small school but you just don't find yourself fitting in, I think yeah, social media can help a lot. Or if you're in any scenario, just where you're in a large group and you're not feeling like you're fitting in, you have literally the whole world at just in your pocket. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds corny and like old people say it all the time. Oh, you get the whole world in your pocket. Like, but they're true. It's true, right?
Right.
You can find your community anywhere.
Absolutely.
I
So,
think for
oh,
oh,
go for it.
go ahead. No,
No,
you
no,
go
no.
ahead.
Go.
Okay, okay. I was gonna say for me personally, social media has been like a roller coaster. If I'm honest,
Mm-hmm.
at first I was just like, especially in middle school, I was just like consuming everything I can. Like I was like just on everything. I was just like a bandwagoner, as some people say. I was just like I was on TikTok and I was just scrolling for. I would scroll for like hours on end. It was terrible. It was pretty bad. I was chronically online for a very long time. Um, but then I was just like, okay, I just need to like, I like just took a step back and realized how bad this was and how much I wasn't doing that I could be doing. So I was like, okay, let me just delete these apps, delete my account so I can't even go back to it if I wanted to. Just completely disassociate myself emotionally with
Mm-hmm.
these accounts, right? Because I had an Instagram account that I would post on, but it got to the point where I became obsessive. Um, yeah. And so now I've limited my social media to just mainly YouTube. And even my mom has told me, oh, yeah, I love that you're on YouTube because the content I'm watching is healthy, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not watching shorts or anything like that or all I'm watching is mainly like documentaries and informative stuff, I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the only social medias I personally use are chatting services, like Discord or like text just
Mm-hmm.
on your iPhone,
Right.
and then YouTube.
Interesting. The main one that I use is Instagram because I am an Instagram Reels watcher.
Yeah.
But all my videos are just Taylor Swift related.
Honestly, that's good. That's great. At least it's not the end of the world.
No, it's
Literally.
great.
Yeah.
So, Wadi, let's get into our own personal mental health. This is the part of the episode that we're going to be a little bit more vulnerable and talk about ourselves. So why don't you go first?
I feel like I've definitely, I don't know if it's consciously or subconsciously, but I've definitely matured over the summer, in more ways than one. I feel like that I was talking about this earlier in the episode, but I was saying that I'm just on the grind, you know? And I also mentioned that I used to dwell on the past a lot, but now I want to look towards the future and I want to have a bright future. I have a bright future ahead of me if I keep doing what I'm doing. So I'm just doing what I'm doing more than ever, you know? I'm just being me and doing everything I can do. Yeah, like I said, it's not the path for everyone, and everyone has their own priorities, whether it be like sports or social media, even, or yeah, that academic route where I'm trying to go. But yeah, I think staying on that grind set has a lot of ups and downs. I think it has a lot of high highs and low lows. So I think the low lows are when you're starting out. Me personally, a low low was the SAT. I've always associated, this is terrible of me, and I'm guilty of this myself.
Wait, hold on.
But
Let's not use judgment language. Terrible? I don't think it's terrible. It's just something that you do.
yeah, I'm guilty of this, but I always associate number go up, me happy. You know what I mean? Like
I totally understand.
number association is the actual word for it.
Yeah.
But that has always worked for me my whole life, just because I've always worked for those higher numbers. And when I was in like middle school, elementary, those numbers were in the form of grades. I'd see A plus, A plus, A plus, A plus. Then I got to my current school in 6th grade, and I saw it was on a 1 to 5 scale, and I got 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and I just dopamine go up, you know. It was just, I was just, you know, in that cycle of just number association, right? And that worked for me, honestly, until I got to the SAT, until I got to the 10th grade PSAT, where I realized, oh wow, I'm just gonna say my score. I got 1,000 on the PSAT, which is not the worst, right? But it
That's
is
like
average.
the average score, yeah.
Yeah, and I've always performed like near perfect my whole life, like because I've put in the work. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're so smart, gifted." No, I put in the work. But yeah, that really put into perspective, like, oh wow, I can't do this anymore. Like the number association. Yeah, so I think the low lows were for me were starting, just first transitioning into bettering myself as a student and bettering myself as a human being. You see, it is you at your worst, and for some people they can live with themselves like that, but I'm hyper competitive even when it comes to my own mental. I gotta be happy and or the happiest, you know. So I was like, oh man, I'm so low, I gotta get up, you know. So then when I did get up, and I spent the whole summer getting up, I got up, you know what I mean. I was at like what I would consider like some of the happiest times in my life were the summer, honestly. Just fulfilling my own desires and just, yeah, really just becoming me, right? And maturing into my own personal being, not
That's
just
great.
an extension of my brother, my mom, you know.
Yeah, becoming your own true self.
Yeah, so I think the route of focusing on academics is one of very low lows and very high highs, and for me, I've been recently, I would say I'm at a high. Right now, honestly, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, got everything going for me, man.
I'm really proud of you, Wadi.
Yeah, and it's easy to feel like this, but then I know there's gonna be more low lows and there's gonna be more high highs. I think the number one thing is just taking a deep breath and realizing it's all okay, and these things are minuscule in your grand life. It's like one day or like a few days out of your whole year, 100 years maybe of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
How has your mental health been?
That's quite the question for me, Riyadh. Okay,
If you're okay with
I
talking about that,
am
of course.
fully okay with talking about my mental health, but with full disclosure being that there might be a few trigger warnings somewhere in here.
Yeah, please be advised. And of
Yes.
course, if you ever feel the need to talk to someone, there is the the hotline 899, I believe is the number, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
suicide
All right,
prevention.
continue.
So let's start with the fact that I currently see 3 separate therapists.
Mm-hmm.
One is a gender therapist, one is a therapist for me and someone else who work through issues together, which I'm not going to talk about that because that is involving another person.
Yeah, personal. Of course.
And one is just my own personal therapist. So
Mm-hmm.
I have dealt with mental health issues since I was in about the 5th grade. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder when I was in the 7th grade. I was also diagnosed at the same time with panic disorder and insomnia. So everyone knows what depression is, but for those who don't know what panic disorder is, I basically get panic attacks every single day that are caused by basically anything.
Yeah.
So,
And then, for those who don't know what insomnia is.
insomnia just means you can't sleep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just clearing everything. All right, continue.
So I've dealt with pretty severe depression since middle school. And there have definitely been, like you said, some low lows that I'm not comfortable talking about. But for me, depression looks different than a lot of people with depression because I have high functioning depression. High functioning depression just means that you're able to do stuff while at the same time being depressed. So I can study really, really hard even though I have zero motivation and I just want to go to sleep.
So it's kind of like when, just for example, when someone like something tragic happens and to cope with it, they just bury themselves in work. Is it kind of like that?
Absolutely. It's kind of like that. Like you said, it's being on the grind.
Yeah. To cope with the depression.
But some of the big symptoms that I face with depression is lack of self-care. It can be really difficult for me to take care of myself. Like, full disclosure, this is kind of disgusting, but I have a really hard time consistently brushing my teeth because I can't force myself to do it. I can do it maybe like 3 times a week, but I can't make myself do it every morning.
Is there any like direct reason why, or is it just a mental blocker that you just can't push yourself past?
So a lot of people who struggle with depression struggle with being able to find the energy to do things, especially in the early morning and when you're going to sleep, which happen to be the times when you brush your teeth. So it's like that lack of motivation, you know?
Yeah. And almost heavy on your chest. Yeah.
A lot of people describe depression as like a heavy weighted blanket that you wear that just like pushes you down constantly.
Yeah. I know of a syndrome. It's a sleep paralysis syndrome that happens a lot to depressed people. I believe it's called old hag syndrome. It's where like you have like a night terror about like, or have a dream about usually an old lady on your chest and you can't move your chest. It's a form of sleep paralysis that a lot of depressed people go through. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, if you ever feel like there's a weight on your chest, just calm down, realize, okay, this is fine. I'm gonna be fine. Happens to multiple people. Yeah. It's called old hag syndrome if you want to
Interesting.
look into it.
I will look into that. But for me, therapy has been something that has helped me in a way that is crazy. Like, I have gone through so much change because of therapy. Like, I am unrecognizable to who I was in the 7th grade. And I think you'd agree with me because you knew me in the 7th grade.
Yeah.
My mental health has improved. I wouldn't say significantly, but it's gotten to a part where, like, I can enjoy things. I can be happy. There are moments of happiness in my life.
That's good. I'm proud of you for that. That's good. Yeah, I think just comparing yourself to your 7th grade self, I think, like on the outside from in, you're just a better person because you are truer to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have developed more, as a person.
Yeah. And speaking of being true to myself, I've come out since I was in the 7th grade.
Yeah.
And
lost hair too.
Cut it all off. Although it's really long right now. I need to get a haircut.
Yeah.
But that's something I want to talk about is mental health among queer people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's so important that saying it's so important is an understatement.
Yeah.
So, as a trans person, a mental health disorder is gender dysphoria. What gender dysphoria is, for people who don't know, is, you know how we all have that image of who we are in our head?
Yeah.
Like, when you think of yourself, you imagine yourself. When I imagine myself, I see someone who doesn't reflect who I physically am.
Yeah.
That's gender dysphoria.
Mm-hmm. Similar to body dysphoria,
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, oh man, I'm too overweight, I need to get skinnier. Just that self, doubt.
Exactly. So I have worked with a specific gender therapist, and we talk about all sorts of issues. And it's really important that other trans people also work with gender therapists, because that's how you get about getting gender affirming care, which is no longer legal in the state of Texas because of our governor.
Love Texas for that, man.
Yes.
I love Texas, favorite state for sure. Oh man, I'm getting out of here.
Leaving ASAP.
Exactly.
Leaving ASAP. We joke about it, but it is a very serious issue that gender affirming care is no longer legal. Life-saving gender affirming care is no longer available for transgender minors who desperately need it. Myself being one of them. And that you're going to see in the next several months a skyrocket of suicide rates among transgender teens in Texas. It's going to skyrocket because of this law. And that is because gender affirming care is mental health care at its very core.
So, with this new law passed, does that make your gender therapy illegal?
It means that I cannot talk about certain things in my gender therapy. So
Are those... that's very interesting.
I'm not allowed to say, hey, I want to start testosterone. I can't say that. Because I'd
And
have
if
to
you
be
do,
reported.
the consequences are?
My parents would be reported. CPS would investigate my parents. My therapist would probably lose her license. So there are certain things that we won't be able to talk about anymore.
Yeah, I think that there's still that old mentality that lives within even some of our generation that has been extremely sheltered. There's still that mentality where being LGBTQ or queer is a mental health or is a disorder, right? You're homosexual, you're mentally ill, you need to go to a psych ward or whatever, right?
Right.
But I think more recently it's no, This is how people feel, right? And I think this is just a step backwards.
It's a
This
huge
is not a
step
step forward.
backwards. Exactly. And the worst part is that the entire defense is that it's protecting children.
It's always about the children, man.
Like, honey, you're not protecting me. You're forcing me to do something that I don't want to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry if this is like a crazy comparison, but what would Caucasian people say about like African American people? We're protecting the children. It's always about the children.
Yeah, totally
When people have this phobia against a certain race or a certain how people identify or whatever, I feel like their scapegoat is always children, right? Just because it's like, oh, we're protecting the children from this horrible thing, from these gang violence or whatever, or from this mental illness, whatever it may be, right? It's always about the children.
It's always about the children. But here we are.
Yeah, and I think with these laws being set in place, I think that just makes social media even more of a helper for these people who don't have access to talking about these things, but can freely on the internet. So yeah, I think that just makes social media even better in a way.
Yeah, it really does. When you are forced to not be able to express yourself, outlets to express yourself become that more important.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we end today, Wadi.
Yeah. Thank you. That was great, and I just want to say thank you for being vulnerable and talking about this important matter.
Exactly. Yeah. And thank you for telling us about how you've been on the grind.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks everybody for listening.
Yep.
We'll see you in our next episode.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.